Hello everyone, I'm Greg Weaver. Welcome to the Audio Analyst. Pardon me. Today, I want to introduce you to the latest iteration of a product that has graced my reference system since its original release. From January of 2005, when I installed the first version of the Audience adeptResponse aR12 passive conditioner, its remarkable contributions have played an indispensable and crucial role in my listening. Now, with this latest version, the T4, I'm only too happy to share with you that it has once again offered conspicuous improvements and refinements. Officially, Audience has a 2.5-decade-long history of building exceptional products of high build quality that perform almost uniformly above their price class. As a manufacturer of a complete lineup of exemplary audio products, from single driver, full range, crossoverless loudspeakers, to reference-grade cables, to world-class passive power conditioners, the subject of today's discussion, Audience can actually trace its genesis back to the early 1970s. In fact, if we had Sherman and Mr. Peabody's abilities to set the Wayback Machine to travel back in time to visit Southern California in 1972, we might be able to witness the serendipitous convocation of two like-minded individuals. One, John McDonald, then a local businessman and music lover, and the late Richard Smith, a forward-thinking designer and audiophile. Now, I have included a link to an interview with Richard that was done by my dear friend Jim Rod in today's description section for those who wish to pursue that. But the two soon discovered that they both shared an immense passion for music, as well as for the art of reproducing recorded music. Now, that common love of music and its reproduction, still the underlying motivation behind all Audience products to this very day, led to the founding of not just one, but of two companies. The first was Sidereal Acoustic Audio Systems Incorporated, founded in 1979. Now, both founders shared a similar vision, one of realizing a uniquely different approach to loudspeakers. However, all I've been able to learn about that work was that considerable time was spent developing something called the Model 4 loudspeaker throughout the early 1980s. Though John McDonald left Sidereal in 1986, the two chose to join forces once again in 1977, and with the addition of my late friend, engineer Roger Sheker, the company we now know as Audience was officially launched. Sadly, we lost Roger in 2016, and I have linked the remembrance I wrote for the industry in today's description section as well. Yet, from its very inception, Audience's primary goal continued to be the realization of a full-range loudspeaker, one that employed only full-range drivers, without separate tweeters or woofers or crossovers. Now, I was privileged to hear the first version of the prototypical speaker that would become the Claire Audience series of speakers back in January of 2006 at CES. But it was in 2009 when Audience officially unveiled its first production version of its visionary loudspeaker, the Claire Audience 16. Now, over the years, I've had the pleasure of reviewing quite a few of their products, including their wide range of audio cables, including interconnects, power, speaker, USB, Cat7, and SATA cables, several speakers from that Claire Audience series, their optical disc enhancer, and their simply splendid adeptResponse passive power conditioners, many of which still contribute significantly to my current reference and office systems. But to the point of today's episode, I have been using whatever the current variant of their adeptResponse 12 has been since January of 2005, right after its introduction. And for clarity, the number in the model's name describes the number of AC outlets that it offers. That original aR12 was such an exceptional performer that besides earning a permanent place in my reference system, it earned inclusion in my Positive Feedback Writer's Choice Awards that year. Now, immediately prior to the arrival of the updated $11,400 T4, I'd been using the 2018 iteration, the aR12-T6, which I wrote about for The Absolute Sound that same year, as it had handily improved upon the performance of the previous version, the TS. Now, by that time, I was still continually met with and surprised by the degree of enhancement each newer model brought, as every newer iteration I auditioned improved upon its predecessor's performance by a perceptible margin. So, each aR12-T4 chassis is 17 inches wide by 15 1/4 inches tall by 11 1/2 inches deep and may be optionally configured to accommodate rack mounting. Weighing in at a svelte 15 pounds, you may choose a distinctive grained and satin anodized aluminum finish in either silver or black. And each one is warranted for 10 years against any factory defect. The adeptResponse's gorgeously finished and appointed front panel features an exceptionally low resistance, heavy-duty magnetic circuit breaker as a power switch, along with a blue LED voltage meter to track the incoming AC supply voltage. And its filter section features the use of new, proprietary audience-developed, high-resolution Teflon capacitors. To realize these superior capacitors, audience really had to task their supplier. Now, working together, they have redesigned all their filter capacitors to have a bold new shape. They were redesigned to accomplish a 1-to-1 ratio of width to length. John McDonald feels that the combination of both the quality of these new ARA-TR Teflon capacitors, utilizing this new 1-to-1 physical shape, render a cleaner and more dynamic sonic result than they have previously been able to realize. They also feature Audience's internally developed, high-definition, cryogenically treated, copper core, rhodium-plated hidden treasure duplex outlets. Further, each of those duplexes is individually filtered with high-efficiency, low-impedance filter components, while each outlet employs double filtering, affording the maximum component-to-component isolation that they can provide. The ground plane is realized using star ground wiring, and each unit is wired throughout using their AU24SX OCC internal power wiring. Each aR12-T4 includes a 1.75 meter Audience 10 AWG Forte F5 power cord with its locking Nutric 20 amp PowerCon connection. But I took advantage of the upgrade path, opting for the 6-foot 10 AWG front row power cord from their flagship series of AC cables. Now this option adds $6,300 instead of $6,700 if purchased separately, adding slightly over half again the cost of the aR12-T4. But this was clearly the logical choice for my application, as I have adapted these front row series of power cords as my reference AC cords throughout my entire system, from source to amplification. And as such, I saw no reason to take a step backward in performance in this regard when adding this new superlative conditioner, as it powers my entire rack of gear. I felt it was not only worth the additional cost, but essential to getting the absolute best from the aR12-T4. Now, this flagship line of power cords from Audience uses a vast, interrelated system of proven, applied technologies during their manufacture, resulting in a process that Audience has coined MORRE, M-O-R-R-E, for musically optimized reduction of resistive energy. Now, this unique Audience process takes into consideration every aspect of these power cords fabrication, from the conductive materials, dielectrics, connections and terminations, through signal directionality and cable geometries, all applied to manipulate resistance, capacitance, and inductance to remove or reduce any impediments to signals coursing through them. It includes their approach to resonance frequency damping, as well as a deep cryogenic treatment, an extreme high voltage treatment process, and further post-production processes, including testing and burn-in. Now, if you are interested, you may delve more deeply into the MORRE process at the Audience website. Installation of the new T4 is a snap. Once positioned, the adeptResponse and all components are powered off. Start to plug each of your components into the adeptResponse in the following order. Your power amp or amps and external power supplies should be plugged into the receptacles nearest to the incoming power line, followed by your line stage or preamplifier, then followed by all your other front-end components. DACs and other digital components should be plugged in furthest from the power entry point. Once everything is connected, power on the aR12-T4, then your components. Now, given my experiences with Teflon components, I knew to expect that the forming time would be something on the order of at least 400 hours. So to maximize the efficiency of running in this new adeptResponse, before replacing my active aR12-T socks with this new aR12-T4, I connected it to a spare AC socket for a full 2 weeks. Now, while this clearly would have no impact on break-in of the individual hidden treasure outlets, it still made sense given the known lengthy forming time for Teflon. Guys, but once the new aR12-T4 was dropped into place and everything was powered back up, the entire swapping process took me less than 10 minutes. There was no question that it was delivering distinct and apparent sonic advantages. I mean, wow. The notably quieter, purer backdrop of stillness and silence from which all other sounds were now permitted to originate from really took me by surprise. While I had grown accustomed to and dependent upon the remarkable degree of starkness or blackness so effectively delivered by the T-socks, I had to admit that I was now being treated to an entirely new, relevantly improved level of nothingness from which all things musical could now be regenerated within. This obviously more effective amelioration of background spurious noise, hash, and grain that one is typically subjected to with untreated AC lines contributes to both an enhanced portrayal of spatial relationships and elevates dynamic expressiveness, including both contrast and scale on the micro level, as well as greater subtlety and nuances of shading and events unfolding down close to the noise floor in the micro realm. I was also treated to its keener sense of organicness, an attribute that affords augmented neutrality and naturalness to musical tone and texture. Now, among the newly elevated attributes, the sonic envelope had developed a creamier, lusher feeling of texture and was now capable of realizing even more complexly textured timbre of both fundamentals and overtones. And while this tonal richness was enhanced broadband, it was especially notable from the lower mid-range through the lower treble regions in my system, imparting instruments of all manner, stringed, brass, woodwind, skinned, even human voices, with a more corporal character, revealing more distinct and faithful instrumental body and bloom. Further, this more unmistakable, overwhelming honesty of timbre imbues the entire musical gestalt with an inescapable sense of ease and warmth, a delicate coherence, a lucid dimensionality, and a tangible presence. And as I've just touched upon, the improvements wrought to broadband pitch definition, especially from the subsonic realm, about 15 or 16 hertz, on up through the lower mid-range, result in an enhanced degree of coherence and cohesiveness. The elevated clarity the T4 delivers not only adds to the revelation of more intricate musical details, such as the resolution of individual voices of backing vocalists or masked strings, but it conveys yet another level of authenticity to the dimensionality found in layer upon layer of sound staging and imaging cues. This finer resolution adds to the overall transparency of your musical sources. Now, in closing, I must tip my hat to John and the entire audience team yet again, as the aR12-T4 has significantly raised an already exceedingly high bar of performance in this category, that much higher. In a nutshell, I find the adeptResponse T4 to be notably quieter, more dynamic, more resolute, and to offer improved dimensional and spatial performance over its remarkable predecessor. I urge you to find a way to experience the seductive effects this remarkable passive conditioner can bring to your system. Truthfully, guys, I simply cannot imagine my system without its significant contributions. If you value your music anywhere near as much as I do, I suspect that once you have heard what it can do for your rig, there is very little chance that you would choose to listen without it. Most enthusiastically recommended. Now, before I close today, I'm excited to share that my next episode will be on the world-class flagship product launch that I hinted at back in episode 63. I'm flying out of the country tomorrow morning to take you to the factory for this introduction, and I'm dying to share this info with you, so be watching for it. Thanks for visiting today. Please don't forget to like and share links to your favorite episodes with your friends on social media, or to post your comments and questions. And be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new episodes. Information on supporting the channel may be found in today's description section or at my website, theaudioanalyst.com. Please be safe and keep the music playing, guys. Till next time, cheers.